to actually think something that's unthought. We're not really given the tools to manage that. This is what creating problems does. It requires people to think that which they've never thought. And what that does is opens this path of uncertainty, confusion, and possibly chaos. And those are the things we're taught to stay away from. We're taught to have very specific formulas for things. We even teach in business what are the 3 steps to success. We teach people personally what are the 3 steps to happiness or the 10 steps, the 10 rules. If we follow those, supposedly we hit nirvana, we hit the business that, does $100 billion. We become the great leader, and it doesn't seem to be occurring that way. Yet we keep saying the same thing, and people keep looking for, well, give me the steps that I need to take, and I'll just do it. That's once again, just I have the answer. I can tell you the 3 steps. The 3 steps are bop, bop, bop. Yes, give me my star.
My mom taught me when I was really young that if you don't know the answer to something, or if you don't feel satisfied with the answer that you've been given, to ask another question. I witnessed her in interactions with other people asking more questions, trying to get more information so that she could understand for herself and be satisfied with the situation. And so she taught me that you should ask questions until you're satisfied with the answer, and that, yes or no is generally not acceptable as an answer, and that you have to provide some sort of explanation to give people more information. And I think that put me down the path of questioning everything. Even though she didn't directly teach me question everything, but rather ask questions if you're not satisfied. And that was enough for me to go, I should question everything.
At the age of 21, I lost both parents in one day, and I'm the oldest of 4. And so talk about being in a situation filled with uncertainty and chaos. I had no experience at losing parents, and I had no experience at taking over a family that was in full swing, because I was 21, my brother was 19, and my sisters were 12 and 16. Take my brother off to college, and even though I had my sisters live with my father's sister, I needed them to help me in certain things. And so I would give them initially small tasks, maybe back then calling 411 to get information or speaking to a customer service rep. And I would ask them to do these things knowing they didn't know how to do it, and they would fail. So when they would come back to me, I was okay with that because I anticipated they would fail. So instead of me giving them the answer and telling them how to do it, I would ask questions. And, and one of the things I would say, oh, well, just because someone said no to you doesn't mean it's no. You may have asked them the wrong way. What's another way to ask? And so they would go back and try it again, and they would fail. And, I would ask more questions until eventually they would solve it. At that time, I knew nothing about neuroplasticity, except that's exactly what was happening for them. Neuroplasticity is we all have neural pathways in our brain. If you do an MRI, it looks like roads in your brain, and that's where all of our information, everything we know, sits in there, and it can connect with other thoughts that seem unrelated. You can only understand something new through that which is already in your neural pathways. So when you help someone grow completely new neural pathways, they can now have a new neural pathway that contains new knowledge, and it allows them to see new perspectives that they couldn't see in the past. That's exactly what was happening with my sisters. And I didn't know it was happening at the time. And years after, I still could not have told you that's what was happening. What I did see is it helped them better solve problems and thinking about them differently. And what it allowed is, over time, they would start volunteering for things that were more complex. And even I would be surprised. Sure you want to do that? They always knew if they failed, they could come to me. So I never penalized them for failing. Technically, you could say I set them up for failure, but I coached them up. So by watching that, when I became a chief operating officer, I was able to transfer that to my role as an executive. When my people came to me with a problem, instead of giving them the solution, even if I knew the way to do it, I would ask them questions to help them get there on their own, so that eventually I was obsolete and I wouldn't be in the problem-solving business. And every once in a while, they would come up with a solution better than what I thought. So then I was like, wow, this asking them questions is better than I thought, because they may have a perspective that I don't have because they're in the trenches, with the customer. Asking questions is really a big deal. The inquiry has a lot of power, and sometimes leaders feel like they don't have time for that. Except in the long run, you're better off because you're making your people more capable and they're less likely to come back to you with problems.
Thanks for watching. If you liked this insight, I've handpicked another video for you right here on the screen. For more actionable strategies that get you real results, hit subscribe.